Yes.
Whereby they bully and threaten and jeer at those who do not share the party line, in the hope of not just silencing them, which may or may not happen, but of making sure that nobody else joins them in speaking out.
That's right.
Which is one of the reasons why I've carried on speaking out. If they'd left me alone, I'd have stopped doing this years ago. But because they bullied me,
Yeah.
I thought I'm not going to be bullied, and
Yeah.
I will carry on for as long as anybody asks me to go and speak.
Dennis Kucinich, who was a congressman in the United States. Do you know Dennis?
Yeah.
You do?
I know of him, I don't know.
Oh, okay. Dennis actually introduced a bill in the House of Representatives several years ago banning things like banning chemtrails.
Yes.
And they leaned on him so heavily that he had to withdraw the bill 2 days later.
Yes, I've looked at this chemtrails business, and as far as I can tell from a not very detailed examination of it, the atmospheric monitoring that we do on our estate, and it's done all over the world, is not showing any systematic increase in any particular particulate or other pollutant of what would normally be in the air, apart from CO2, which you can detect going up a little bit, but again not very much.
What measurements did you do? I didn't hear.
We have a rather sophisticated atmospheric monitoring station on the estate, which is maintained by one of the local universities. And
Right.
Nothing. I go and look at the readings from time to time, and I can't see anything particular.
Well,
certainly in that.
I brought you these to have a quick look at.
Yes, they look rather like condensation trails.
Well, have a look at. There's only 3 of them. They won't burn you.
Well, those are condensation trails. Those are, I don't know what that is.
That's a geostat.
It is a satellite, it must be from the
Yes, that's right.
angle of horizon.
Yes, right.
So I ain't sure what that's all about.
Okay. Have a look at the third one.
Look to me like condensation trails
Sure,
again.
sure.
And that looks like condensation trails.
Hold it up to the camera, would you, so we could record that?
There's the picture.
Now, those, you think those are condensation trails?
Well, I mean, I am no expert, let me tell you. So, first of all, if you're wanting scientific advice on this, don't come to me. I can see several different things going on. I can see that at altitude, as I would expect, there is laminar wind flow, as indicated by the way some of the trails at the right angle are dissipating. I can see a new trail being created by a plane higher up. This is over, where are we looking at, this river?
I don't remember.
It's quite important to know where it is, because then one could work out what the pattern of air traffic ought to be.
Well,
and
one of these pictures, actually, this has nothing to do with air traffic. They're crisscrossing all over the place. Have a look at this. I'll hold this up for John here for a moment. My air traffic control friend says that they really try very hard to keep planes from doing that in the commercial world. And that contrails or condensation trails actually disappear rather quickly after an airplane goes by.
Well, it depends on the atmospheric conditions. I've seen this myself with
every last one of these, and we have seen hundreds of them, actually spreads out across the sky and turns blue sky sickly grayish yellow. So we started looking into this, and sure enough, it's a real phenomenon.
Well, the question is really very simple. If it isn't showing up in my atmospheric monitoring, what am I doing wrong?
I don't know.
What are you testing for?
Well, just about every particulate matter, because we are in an unusually clean air area in Rannoch, in the Central Highlands of Scotland. Some of the cleanest air on Earth is up there. And so they're looking to see whether pollutants of any kind are reaching
well, I don't know
location. And I mean, there are some, but they're what you would expect to find from an industrial civilization. They haven't found anything that they wouldn't expect to find.
Do you see trails like that crisscrossing over your property?
Well, no, because we get very few flights over us, and if they do come, they're already at a very great altitude by the time they get to us, because they'll be taking the polar route, and they'll be coming, say, from Edinburgh Airport, and they'll be going well to the well up in the
Anyhow, we practice some...
and so,
sorry.
And in any case, in Scotland you have clouds most of the time, so you wouldn't see them. So we're not a good place to observe these things from. But in any case, the central question is, if there were somebody spraying things into the atmosphere, then I would expect this to show up systematically in atmospheric monitoring.
How do you know that it isn't,
if
and
you
the
take,
data isn't being censored?
well, because I'm not a conspiracy theorist,
Okay.
unless I can see some reason for a conspiracy to exist and find some evidence for
After
it.
Fukushima went off, the United States EPA actually shut down a lot of its monitoring stations.
Well, I mean, I don't know why it did that,
Well,
but
it
in any
seems
case,
pretty
the atmospheric monitoring that happens on our estate has not been shut down.
Okay,
And
that's okay.
And
but,
so my
this is a very-
single question is this, that if this were happening,
Yeah,
then because we are a curious race, there would be some
there is.
scientists of relevant qualifications
Yes, plenty
who
of
have
them.
been able to assemble data from atmospheric monitoring stations all around the world and to publish in peer-reviewed journals of respectability an account of this, and to demonstrate that there were definitely changes in the chemical composition of the atmosphere that appeared systematic over perhaps a region, over a continent, or perhaps over the whole world.
They actually
But I have not seen any
no.
such papers, and therefore, if there are
We've got to send them some.
I should like to have the references.
Okay,
And
we'll-
until I have seen the references,
Right.
I
Fair
should
enough.
not be in a position to comment.
Sure.
Because at the moment, my understanding
Well-
is that there's no such thing.
Okay.
And I may be wrong, but until I have seen the references, I ain't going to talk about it any further.
The Royal Society and other wonderfully esteemed groups as those had actually changed the name. As you noted correctly last night, global warming has morphed into climate change, which is morphing into extreme weather. I thought that was really good. What's happened here with the chemtrails is that the Royal Society and other esteemed scientists of that nature have come out now to push the geoengineering line.
Yeah, that I've seen, and I think it's characteristic of modern day science that you should seek. I mean, modern day scientists, of course, are almost by definition rent seekers first and foremost. That's the economic term for people who don't want to make a living by working in the private sector. They'd rather sit back comfortably and be paid by the taxpayer and not have to work too hard in return. And 99% of science now is funded by the taxpayer. There's very little funded in comparison by the private sector. And as a result, scientists have got very good at working out ways of extracting very large amounts of money from the taxpayer for various boondoggles. And I used to work at number 10 Downing Street, and one of my jobs was to be a boondoggle detector. I detected some real Lulus in my time, some of which were scientific, some of which were political, but all of which would have been a terrific waste of money if we'd allowed them to happen. And I think since my time, there's not been a boondoggle detector in Downing Street, and therefore public spending has got completely out of control. The point about geoengineering is really this: even if you could make some form of it work, and even if it was necessary in the first place, which I don't think it is, the atmosphere is a rather large place. And because the atmosphere is so big, the cost of trying to do any significant geoengineering would be so large that it would be entirely prohibitive. We're already running out of money because we've been trying to spend money on all this global warming stuff. That in its own is, as I showed in my talk that you kindly came to last night, prodigiously expensive in return for the very small reductions in global temperature you might foresee in relation to what you spend. Now, geoengineering is even worse than that, because the volume of the atmosphere though Al Gore in his movie talks about it as just the thickness of a fingernail on a traditional globe, it is still enormous. And to try to put enough chemicals or water vapor spray from the sea, or whatever fancy idea they have, to act as parasols to shade us from the rays of the sun and stop us from being fried by carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, the cost of that would be entirely disproportionate to any benefit, even if there were any benefit to be had from such.
Okay, let me just tie this up with Catherine's question. First of all, yes, indeed, I believe very strongly that that chemtrails, geoengineering, whatever you want to call it, do exist.
Well, no, there are proposals for it.
Well, no,
it doesn't appear also in any budget.
Let me finish my question.
It's very expensive.
May I finish my question?
Yes, but wait, take my point about the budget.
Of course, I've done that.
Yes.
The answer to your budget question is easy, and that is basically it's black budget.
It's too big.
No, I could show you pictures of an airplane, of a tanker that actually crashed in California, spewing all this